Welcome to
Brutal.
the MMA podcast.
How's everyone hanging today?
Pretty good.
I'm full of energy and life.
Wonderfully.
That makes one of us.
Thank you for asking me, Gabe. How are you?
All right, let's get into the fights. We had Felipe Lins versus Max Grishin first on the UFC Vegas 73 card. Very boring fight, like I stated in the previous podcast. Not a whole lot going on. Felipe Lins won a really boring decision. That's all that was there for that fight. Right after that, we had Damon Blackshear versus Luan Lacerda. That was a really entertaining fight. Damon Blackshear dominated pillar to post. I mean, from the bell ringing to the fight getting stopped, he beat the tar out of Luan Lacerda. So that was a really fun
the
matchup.
Brazilian lost?
Yeah, I think it was the only Brazilian loss on this card.
Damn,
Probably.
unfortunate.
That sounds actually pretty accurate. Maybe.
Brazilians stay winning as they should. We also had Elise Reed versus Jin Yu Frey. Very uneventful, unanimous decision. Not too much to talk about there. Right after that one, we had Jamie Malarkey. Oh, excuse me. Jamie Malarkey versus Muhammad Naimov. It was Muhammad Naimov. It was his debut in the UFC. He was a big underdog, plus 370. He came out swinging pretty hard. Jamie Malarkey dominated the first round, and it looked like Muhammad was on the downturn. But at near the end to middle of the second round, Muhammad turned around, knocked him out cold, and Jamie Malarkey had some problems standing up after that one. So that was a really good fight. Definitely worth a rewatch. So after that one, we had John Castaneda versus Moeen Garfar. I'm never going to say that name again in my life. And he's irrelevant because he got knocked out.
Moeen Garfield.
Garfarov, right?
I don't want to say it. John Castaneda really pushed the pace on this one. And, I mean, was a lot more technically sound than Moeen.
Moeen.
Let's just call him Hairy Chest. Hairy Chest just really swung for the fences this whole fight. I mean, just haymakers. He didn't really do a whole lot except for haymakers the whole fight. And my guy, John Castaneda, really got the best of him. So after that, we had a really fun matchup between Andrei Arlovsky versus Dontail Miles. Dontail Miles did exactly what he needed to, stayed sharp, stayed straight with his punches. A few too many connected, and he put him out there with the TKO. So
Is it not Maze?
did I not say Mace?
You said Miles.
He said Mayes.
I can't speak correctly. I know what's going on 2% of the time.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
It's more than me.
And then we had a really fun matchup between Daniel Willie Cat Santos and Johnny Munoz.
There's the
That
Brazilian
That fight was
one.
actually kind of unfortunate.
That fight
there
was
were
a little unfortunate. A lot of groin shots, a few fouls here and there.
Oh, that was what you guys were talking about.
nut shot. It was
Nut
like
shot
10 seconds into the round.
10 to 15 seconds into
Yeah.
the first round.
Hmm.
Really bad nut shot, by the way. After that, it was pretty dominating performance from Daniel Santos. Munoz pulled guard really often and didn't do a whole lot. Daniel Santos was the better man and dominated all 3 rounds. The judges gave him 27-29. He only technically tied 1 round because he got a point taken because of the groin shot. But that was the only discrepancy.
That was the second groin shot that he got a point taken, right?
Yeah, I mean, it hit his quad and then slid up into his nuts. Can't really say either of those nut shots were intentional, but
Man, the sliding nut. gets me
dude
every time.
definitely lost a few sperm cells. Really interesting matchup between Abubakar Nurmagomedov and Alizu Zaleski dos Santos. What was your thoughts on that fight when watching that one?
I
Kaitlin.
thought it was interesting. I kind of had more faith in the Dagestani about like being more dominant with his wrestling and whatnot, but actually he, like, if I remember correctly, Dos Santos kind of stayed on his feet a lot of the time. He really squashed a lot of the takedown attempts.
Yeah. Zaleski has amazing takedown defense. It may be all the needles he's shooting in his ass, but you know what? He
Oh, right. He came back from what, a 2-year suspension?
1 year doping suspension.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Damn.
Abubakar is the cousin of Khabib Nurmagomedov, and he basically is the Dagestani handcuff. I mean, just pulls everyone to the floor, dominates from there, and he couldn't get anything going in this fight. I couldn't believe it was a split decision.
Yeah, I didn't see anything there. That felt pretty one-sided to me.
Yeah, it was pretty one-sided. You could give one round to Bubakar, but that's about it.
Yeah.
We had a really brutal outcome between Karine Silva and Kaitlin Souza. I am dyslexic.
Karine Silva and Kaitlin Silva.
Yeah, I was watching that one on my big monitor, like 2 inches away, and that kneecap took up about a cubic or a square, like 4 inches on my face vision field, and that knee popping was brutal.
That
was brutal.
Dislocation.
Discoculation.
I'm discombobulated today. Goodness gracious. But that was a really solid win for Karine Silva.
Yeah,
I mean,
real quick. She was crying afterwards. Was that because of the win or because she
probably because of the win?
Brutalized.
A lot of people are very emotional after a big win like that.
Understandable. There's now a cat behind me.
You've got a fun little cameo from
Mazakine.
That was
Mazakine. We're talking about a cat named Mazakine, and he's jumping around right now. She is frolicking. My fault.
How dare you?
After that fight, we had another pretty good fight between Tim Elliott and Victor.
That was a cool one to watch.
Huh?
That was a cool one to watch. Tim Elliott fights really weird.
His nickname is Awkward. Like that's
actually his name.
His
I see why.
His Instagram handle is awkward_MMA.
That's hilarious because I've never seen such a weird movement.
Yeah,
a funky fighter, man.
Yeah, man looked like he was just trying to jive the whole time.
I think Mazakine is trying to jive over there. She's having a hell of a time.
Eating something.
But I would say I'm really happy for Tim Elliott. He just got over a lot of family problems and a divorce.
Oh, good for him. I mean, not for the divorce, but for getting over it.
No, good for him.
The one thing I did want to touch on with this fight is I thought Victor was going to get knocked out in the first round. Mm-hmm. I did not expect Victor to put up a fight because I always remember him as like kind of a scrawny kid who would kind of get thrown around.
Very much so.
But it went to decision. Okay, but it went to decision.
And
I think that's like a really good improvement.
Honestly, no, for sure. Yeah. It definitely was an improvement. Victor Altamirano he's not a very big talent because I think he started training martial arts when he was like 24, 25, honestly. I mean, really late.
Wait, how old is he?
29 maybe?
He looks 23.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know much about this guy, but that whole fight, honestly, it looked like he was kind of a deer in headlights. I don't know if it's because of Elliott's style.
There were some moments where he landed some head kicks.
That's true.
It looked like there was a possibility he could actually win that fight, but he had a lot more work to do. And I imagine after a performance like that against a number 11 ranked guy, I mean, he could put it together and really do something, but he just needs to connect the pieces. Yeah. After that fight, my favorite fight of the night, Jim Miller versus Jesse Butler.
Oof.
Talk about a deer in headlights. That was Jesse Butler because Jim Miller, old man Jim Miller, walked out there, threw maybe 4 punches, and 23 seconds into the fight, knocked Jesse Butler unconscious. And while he was heading down to the floor, hit him with an uppercut just to send him with some take home.
Yeah, they did a slow-mo of the finish there, and the amount of power that he had going into that knockout punch was disgusting. His back foot was cocked all the way back.
Yeah,
that must have been an insane amount of power.
You backhand,
or I don't know. Yeah.
Both probably.
Both.
Yeah, Jim Miller's been in the sport longer than I've been alive. So any of us, I believe.
That's crazy.
And man, I mean, every time I go out there and watch Jim Miller, I'm believing he goes out there to put on a show, and that's what he does every time.
It was definitely entertaining.
Yeah, he's 3-1 in his last 4, all knockouts. He was not known for knockouts early in his career, but that old man power is starting to settle into those bones, and he's
lumberjack daddy.
Seriously, he's just smashing kids. I don't know why
Caitlin's looking at me.
I'm sorry. Daddy.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Could have just called him a lumberjack.
Seriously. that is foul.
Okay, next.
Oh, this fight's great. I love this fight.
Bruce Leroy, Alex Caceres versus Daniel Pineda. I knew when I saw this fight on the card that it was scheduled. I knew for a fact that Pineda and Caceres would be fight of the night because both these guys are scrappy. Both these guys only get finishes, and they went to decision. I mean, and it surprised me because I thought they would be on the floor trying to choke each other out immediately, but They kept it standing for a large portion of it, and when they did get to the ground, scrambles.
All the
It was
time.
like watching a jiu-jitsu seminar. I
Yeah,
was
this is great.
really pleased with the outcome of this
Super
fight.
entertaining fight. I think this fight has made me like Cesaro as probably one of my favorite
Caceres.
fighters. The dude, yeah, with the
You
jiggle
said
hair.
Bruce Leroy.
Bruce Leroy.
He's
That
like
guy
a-
is definitely one of my favorite
he's like a-
fighters now.
Somewhat famous actor, and
for real?
he looks exactly like him, so that's why they call him Bruce Leroy.
Bruce Lee. I know Bruce Lee.
It's Bruce Leroy.
Leroy. Anyways.
Completely different person.
Oh, okay. I'm just making sure. But yeah, easily one of my favorite fighters now. That whole fight was super fun to watch. The defense on Cesaro,
Caceres.
Bruce Leroy was fantastic. I believe he was in a full like armbar at one point. Easily,
He is
wiggled out of
amazing.
that.
He's very creative.
Yeah,
That's why I like both these guys. They're very gritty, but they're very creative. So they're
Yeah.
not gonna sit there in your guard. They're not gonna be patient.
Yeah.
They're gonna
They were at it. And
fight for the finish.
Pineda was tanking. He took so many body shots towards the later rounds, and you just kept chugging through
You
it. He
saw
was
him-
smiling
you
at
saw him
some
start
point.
to like
Yeah,
crunch
he
over when
was
took body
cringing
shots.
over. Yeah, but he still had a smile on his face. He was kind of laughing the whole time. I don't know why this guy's laughing.
What are you up
but-
to giggling about?
Don't worry about it.
Schoolgirls in the
Don't worry about
schoolyard.
it. I needed to test my mic. Sorry.
I'm terrified.
Yeah, that was the most entertaining match of the fight for me. And Pineda has really cool
Match of the
tattoos.
fight.
Match of the fight.
Match of the fight.
Did you have
Let's
any-
go.
Match of the fight.
Do you have any opinions on that fight?
It was interesting. I was kind of pissed off because basically by this point I realized I was not doing very well in my own picks. So I had to switch to the person,
Pineda.
the other guy. I tried. I was hoping he would get some nasty finisher, but nope, nothing happened. And yeah, it was a little unfortunate, but yeah, he definitely deserved the win.
Can I just bring to attention real quick our verdict season score where Daniel missed a whole fight scoring and is almost the same win-loss record as Charles, who is in second place somehow because of his stupid XP. Like the way he
Listen,
puts XP.
Don't complain that I'm better, okay? Just don't complain.
I'm just disappointed that I'm 15-6, which is drastically better than any of you.
No.
And I'm
pretty
It's
bad.
not
third.
drastic. It's not drastic.
It
It
is-
was two. It was literally the two from this fight.
Yeah, it's pretty drastic.
It's not drastic.
And that's not two from this fight because I lost one in this fight.
No, I'm just better. Like generally. I'm the good
I'm gonna stare at that record, and by the end of the season,
it
I'm
won't
gonna
be
have
for
like
long.
40
gonna
wins.
cop that
no,
number
the
one.
last
Sorry
what
to
was
say.
it?
I
I
didn't
think
make
in
any
episode
picks.
3 you two were just
You're
like
10 and
This
11.
fight.
I don't want
But
to
I'm
hear
coming
your
back.
Oh,
bullshit.
I know.
Well, they're arguing
Dog,
over
Hey,
this.
I
I'm
have
gonna
yet
take
to
it.
have
I'm telling you right now, I'm gonna take
that's 6 in a row.
number one spot at the end of the
I
season.
won't be number one spot. I can honestly promise you that because I'm not good at betting with XP. But you know what? I'll have the best record.
well,
by
that's
fucking far.
probably no, but you guys made a bet about being in first place. I think like 2 or 3 episodes ago.
I mean, I won this last event, so.
But then I do want to bring up the fact that I somehow got ahead of you guys within like 1 week
I've
of
been,
you
like,
guys making
last.
that bet.
I've been like last. So
Well, you've been floating, and I thought.
no, I've been last the
I
entire
think-
time. I just got.
Oh
to
yeah,
third.
no,
Next
you're
week,
right.
I'm going
Just
to
got
do
to
what I've been doing, which is pick everything beforehand and don't change it.
Yeah.
And you guys are going to watch me win. That's what I'm going to do. No changes,
Cute.
no big bets.
I won this last one, and I don't care.
Are you
Put your
betting
car
for
on
or
this.
The
against?
proof is in the
Oliveira?
pudding. The proof is in the pudding. Since we made this bet, I got first. So
Yeah.
Let's touch on the
We'll
main fight of.
okay. I didn't really want to talk about it, but let's talk about it. Kaikara France and Amir Albazi. I mean, these guys are both very elite talents. There's a perfectly good reason to why it was a split decision, but not in this way. Kaikara France, I had him winning 4 of the 5 rounds. You could decisively say 3 of the 5 rounds. Not the most entertaining bout. It was very technical. I enjoyed it to an extent, but I wasn't the most engaged. No one here
I don't think
was
anyone was.
too
Yeah, it
engaged.
was
Like
that-
I think we got up and then kind of watched a little bit.
We were
All
walking
I
around doing
remember
something.
is right at the end when they were doing the decision and Gabe went, "Split? How the hell is it split?" Okay, well it's clearly Kaikara, and he said that out loud, and then 2 seconds later, Albazi gets the win, and his face was just.
It's disappointing to see someone lose because from that decision, from that poor judging decision, one judge, I believe it was Chris Lee, gave round 4 to Amir Albazi. Where that round, Amir Albazi, he only landed 5 to 10 strikes, and his percentage was 20% less on accuracy against Kai Kara-France. And Kai Kara-France landed, I believe, 27 strikes that round. And I don't know what judge was watching, but there was no takedowns, there was no control. The more damage came from Kai Kara-France, and they still handed Albazi that decision.
Well, that judge was reffing for golf. That's probably what it was.
I don't know what the judge was doing, but he was out to lunch because he wasn't watching that fight. And it's upsetting because, I mean, Kai Kara-France wins that fight, and he's probably promised a title shot. He makes $100,000 more. I mean, it's sad to see these judges rip away fighters' livelihoods.
It is crazy to think about how drastically your life can change based off of
Absolutely. Just
such
a single decision from a
single
judge.
decision. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunate.
If the judge gave that one round to Kai Kara, which it clearly was, Kai Kara walks away with the win, and he's closer to a title shot than he was. He's already ranked 3rd, and he would have been even higher. So, Mazakin's going off tonight.
Guest appearance.
We'll probably talk about the next card. This is the pay-per-view you pulled up, correct?
Yes.
Okay. UFC 290. We got one savior in here, Chris Curtis and Nasruddin Imavov. Really good fight they put together last minute. Have you seen Chris Curtis fight?
Chris Curtis,
Action
I
man.
don't believe so, no.
Okay.
I have not either. No.
Chris Curtis only joined the UFC maybe 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he started his year by going 5-0 that year. It was 2-0 in the regional scene and 3-0 in the UFC. And he's he
just shoved them off the couch.
No,
Abused.
she keeps fucking digging her
I don't
nails.
wanna
into
hear
She's
it.
abusing her
You're
cat.
abusing your cat.
Damn.
PETA. Another one, open up.
Justice from magazine.
¿Qué dice?
Magazine.
Okay.
¿Qué dice?
Let's move
Okay,
on.
bye.
All right.
Coach Curtis.
Yeah, but Chris Curtis is really fun. He pushes the action just about always moves forward, throws bombs with his hands, and it's why his name is Action Man, Chris Curtis. And Imavov is more of an outside fighter. He sticks to the outside, throws jabs. If you squeak that chair one more time,
Listen, I
I'm
had
going
to
to
adjust.
swing this
I had
microphone.
to adjust.
Circles.
Fuck you.
It's
The Mazakin is destroying the couch.
Mazakin's really going off.
So many distractions today.
Caitlin's going to cry live on camera.
Welcome to the ADHD episode.
Let's get to the next
Brutal.
one. I can't do it. I'm too stupid. All right. We got... I actually really like this one. Eryk Anders is a former collegiate football player, and we've got him going against Marc-Andre Barriault. Fun striking matchup. Most of these guys don't really take it to the ground too often. One for Canada, one for the U.S. I'm supporting the U.S. in this one. I got Eryk Anders probably by a 2nd or 3rd round knockout. He pushes the pace pretty well. Semi-technical fighter, but he's a little bit behind when it comes to too much fight IQ. So I could see it going either way, to be honest. Any opinions on that fight?
I don't know either of these. Yeah.
Ham.
I don't know.
All I can say is they both look like they could be actors, and that's it.
For sure.
Merc
There's some
Andre
handsome
looks
looking
I
man.
would say Andre looks literally like Jason Statham with that stare right there.
Quite literally, yeah.
I don't know who that is, but he looks like he's gonna kill someone.
Yeah. Next we got 50K, Danny Gay, and Nate Landwehr.
He's wait, what?
He's
Dan-
what he says.
Dan 50K Gay. That's his nickname.
Look,
Danny. Okay,
What do you think I said?
he said Danny Gay. You just called him Danny Gay.
the Danny Phantom sequel.
I'm losing my mind. All right. Well, Nate the Train Landwehr, one of the most entertaining fighters in the league, honestly. Every time he fights, he's yelling out the dumbest stuff. I watched him live in San Diego. He was fighting the night that day. Put on a war with David Onama. I love David Onama, so it was upsetting to see him lose. But that night, I became a fan of Nate Landwehr, and I think everyone in the UFC is right now. So, honestly, one of the guys carrying this card, which is weird to say because he's not a huge name, but I think he will be after this fight. Danny Gay is a really good featherweight, though. So,
I recognize his face.
Ige?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ige's been around for a while.
I think
Ige's
so.
fought a lot of really good guys, and I think it'll be a really fun fight. I think Nate Landwehr makes it entertaining. I could see it going either way, though. Both those guys have a fire in their belly to really win. Ige didn't win for 4 straight fights, and then his last fight out, he got a really good win, and he seemed really fired up, real happy, real grateful for that win. So,
Sweet.
yeah. Next we got Mike Malott versus Adam Egett or Fugit. I'm thinking of Egett now. Adam Fugit and Mike Malott, they don't bring a whole lot to the table. Relatively decent strikers. I could see it knock out either way for those guys. I think I lean towards Mike Malott, but
is that who I think it is on the
there.
next fight?
Huh?
Is that who I think it is on the next fight? The one, the only?
Charles
That's the man.
Du Bronx Oliveira.
Ooh la la.
Illuminato. The beautiful Charles Oliveira, the #1 lightweight contender on the world. I'm so happy to see Charles back in the cage. I was so upset to hear he got injured in his last fight. And I'm really happy to see him. They came out with the first episode of they do like a little vlog daily of the UFC fighters, and they follow their journey until the day of the fights. And they put out every single day. They put out one vlog of what the fighter did that day, of every fighter basically. Goes through all the really good main card guys. So I think they just went through Charles Oliveira, Amanda Nunes, Beneil Dariush, and Irene Aldana. That's the main and co-main event. Charles Oliveira talked about focusing on just being happy this camp and not stressing so much about the fight. So the whole fight camp, he's with his friends, he's with his family.
Good for him.
He's smiling, he's happy, and he's kicking ass while doing it. And I love seeing Charles Oliveira happy. A man from nothing to being in my opinion, the greatest lightweight champion of all time.
Now I'm going to pose a question for you. What would it look like for Dariush to get a win? Like, just speaking from not your favoritism of Charles Oliveira.
Mm-hmm. Beneil Dariush is one of the most complete fighters in the lightweight division. I think he beats Islam Makhachev if they fight. And I think Charles Oliveira can't do that right now. So I think Charles Oliveira has to make huge adjustments to beat a guy like Islam Makhachev, who's the current lightweight champion in the division. Beneil Dariush really is a well-rounded, a really well-rounded fighter. I mean, his jiu-jitsu sound, his striking sound, amazing right hand. He's very tight. His guard is tight. His striking is tight. He's super talented.
Small head though. That dude has a small head.
If Beneil wants to get a win against Charles Oliveira, I think he needs to get to the floor. I think he needs to get to the ground.
Beneil Dariush, you say he can beat Islam, right?
I believe he pillar to post beats Islam.
And Charles, you said can't.
No.
So
No, you can't.
you think Charles might lose?
There's a chance. There's definitely a chance Charles lose.
Mhm.
He just lost against Islam. I mean, that's pretty fresh, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
That was maybe only 7-8 months ago. And he said he was going to take a big break from the fights and then came right back. I mean, Charles Oliveira has a hunger to fight and a hunger to be a champion. And I've never seen a man more hungry in my life to achieve something more than just getting money in this sport.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I love Charles Oliveira. He's one of the best fighters I've ever watched in my life. The most exciting fighter by far, that's for sure. And Charles Oliveira has to make a lot of adjustments to want to win this fight against Beneil Dariush. I think he has the fire to do it, and I think he has the heart to do it. I think that's what Beneil Dariush lacks, that Charles Oliveira does, and the hunger. He was actually notoriously known for not training enough when he was fighting in the UFC earlier. That's why he got knocked out. That's why he got caught a lot. And it looks like he has a lot more hunger now and wants to be champion. But I think he's underestimating Charles Oliveira, especially in the ground game, because on social media he goes, 10 out of 10 times I beat Charles Oliveira on the ground.
That's absurd even to me.
And then he says
even seen...
maybe even 9 out of 10 times if Charles is having a really good day.
That's
crazy. A little bit that's not verbatim, but
And that's what Beneil said?
That's what Beneil said.
Damn.
I think Beneil's going in there without a really complex knowledge of what Charles Oliveira is about, which is about aggression. And I mean, of course, everyone knows Charles Oliveira's striking is aggressive, but nobody has more aggressive submissions than the submission champion himself, Charles Oliveira.
Yeah,
I mean, he has, I think, 20 to 20, I think he has 21 finishes in the UFC or something close to that. And I know he has the submission record by far. I think he's has 4 over the second place champion, which I think is Jim Miller, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Jim Miller.
Rip.
But, I mean, I see a path of victory for Charles Oliveira, and I see a path of victory for Beneil Dariush. But I think Charles Oliveira has better fight IQ. He just needs to tighten up his defense. I think that's his biggest flaw. It's always been his biggest flaw. His defense isn't great, but his aggression's amazing. And I think Beneil gets caught on the way out at some point, maybe
Honestly,
the second round.
I'm not gonna lie. So I'm watching the few fights I have with Oliveira. Sometimes it almost seems like he purposefully goes down.
There's points where he gets hit, and he's like maybe not feeling the best in the feet. There was a point where he fought Justin Gaethje, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he got dropped twice in the very first round. And I mean, he got the finish in the very first round too. But he got dropped twice in that. The second time he got dropped, he got hit with an overhand right. And as he's falling, he gets hit, right? And then he looks for a second and he blinks it out and he realizes, oh, I'm more hurt than I can be. So instead of letting Justin jump on him, if he lets Justin jump into the guard, he has a chance to choke him out. He has a chance to put a triangle choke on him and do whatever he wants to him, because on the ground, he's better than just about everyone. But he can't do that with people like Islam Makhachev or Beneil Dariush. And I think that's where Charles really found out in that last fight against Islam. So I think he'll be more aggressive with the takedowns and more aggressive with the submissions. I think when it comes to wrestling, I think Islam has I think Charles has better offensive wrestling than Beneil, but I don't think Charles will get Beneil down, because Gamrot most recently fought Beneil, could not for the life of him get Beneil on the ground. I think he got him one attempt out of like 20 or something.
That's crazy.
But I'm really excited for that fight.
Should be a good one.
I love Charles Oliveira, and I honestly really like Beneil. Beneil deserves a title shot, and if he gets to win, he definitely deserves that title over anyone else in that division.
I think from a spectator's perspective, that's just a general win-win, you know? So, but although you definitely want one person to win a lot more than the other, I think.
The favela needs Charles Oliveira to win. Do Bronx, baby. From fucking day one. That's the guy who really got me into the sport, Charles Oliveira. So, main event, we got Amanda Nunes versus Irene Aldana. This is a really interesting fight. Amanda Nunes has been known to be a really good self-motivator, and she finally has her own camp where she can self-motivate, and her last fight proved that when she's motivated, she kills people. She fought Juliana Pena, maybe got 4, maybe 3 10-8 rounds against her, kept dropping her, and said she didn't want to finish her because she wanted to prove she had the cardio and had the heart to go 5 rounds, and completely dominated. So I see this no other way than Amanda Nunes getting maybe a knockout, but we said that about Shevchenko versus Grasso, and if you guys remember the screenshot of my face from that fight, Grasso choked out Shevchenko. So you really can't doubt the Mexican heart, and that's why Irene Aldana's got. They train in the same camp too, and they're both facing dominant champions, but I see this going Amanda Nunes' way, even though Irene Aldana has the heart and has the skills to be able to finish it. I just don't see it happening. Is there anything else we wanted to go over, guys?
I don't see it.
Random plug for the new Apple Vision Pro. So Apple's coming out with a new VR AR headset. I think
$4,000 one.
Yeah, that $3,500 one. It's absurd.
I think
It's
if you
absurd,
plug
right?
yourself into that thing,
No.
you become a zombie, and I'll never talk to you
Probably.
again.
But besides that, I think it has huge potential for sports like this. Imagine like your front row seat with that thing. You know, like they could have a camera.
Oh, I see what you're talking
That'd
about.
be pretty dope. Caitlin's grimacing over here,
Kaitlin does not enjoy this conversation.
but I think it would actually be pretty cool.
Wait, but I don't understand. Why can't they do that with regular VR headsets?
Well, they can, and I think they do to some degree with the NBA right now.
Probably NBA, yeah.
But it's particularly cool with this headset, I think, just because Kaitlin wants me to stop. But I think it's particularly cool
Do not
because
stop.
this headset
Do not
doesn't
come.
use any controllers or anything. It's purely based off of your hands and your eyesight, which I think is super cool. I think it's a cool progression in like the entertainment industry potentially.
Wait, so it's not based off of. What do you mean? It's
I
based
So-
still
so
know
you use, like, just
absolutely
hand
nothing about
gestures.
this thing.
to like move and activate everything.
Wait,
Oh,
but
so it's
Well,
not
and eye
easy?
tracking.
what
yeah.
if your hands are out of frame?
Well, it has like cameras like to such a large degree
What
that
if you
like,
don't have
you can
hands?
put them in. Oh God.
Well, I mean, they can't use
Is
the
it not-
headset
I wasn't
anyway,
ready
so
for that.
fuck them. Who needs them?
Hey, this is not amputee friendly?
Oh, okay. It might be. It might
I am
be.
disgusted.
It might be.
I don't
Hold
wanna-
up. Hold up.
I don't want to
sir.
hear your
Hold up.
propaganda.
No. Okay.
Now
It
it's
might
amputee
be. It
friendly.
might actually be because the
Uh-huh.
eye tracking is so good that, according to people who have tested it already, you look at something, it knows exactly what you're looking
What
at.
about blind, deaf amputees?
Why are you using
about
a
them?
headset
What
if
about
you're
them?
blind,
What about them?
deaf, and an
You want
amputee?
to enjoy yourself, and you want to enjoy this technology. And guess what? They're not being inclusive.
All right.
I don't want to hear it.
What's
Apple's
her name?
a
What's her name?
non-conclusive.
Thank you for watching the Brutal MMA podcast. We're out.
Adios.
Goodbye.